The rain fell hard that night, washing the dirt off the broken sidewalks and mixing it with the tears of a boy who had nothing left to lose. His name was Eli, barely 16, hungry, cold, and invisible to the world that had long stopped caring. He huddled beside a trash can behind a closed diner, his thin jacket soaked through, his arms wrapped around his knees as thunder rolled above. To the passing strangers, he was just another street kid. But that night, fate had other plans. That night, he was about to become the heart of a story that would make an entire town cry. Before we dive deeper into Eli's incredible journey, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of doing what's right, even when no one's watching, please hit that like button, share this story, and subscribe to the channel. Let's spread stories that still remind us humanity isn't lost. Eli had been living on the streets for over a year. His mother died when he was 14, and his father, broken by grief and addiction, vanished soon after. The boy learned to survive by scavenging, doing odd jobs, and sleeping wherever the night found him. Every day was the same routine of hunger, cold, and fear. Yet beneath the layers of dirt and despair, there was something unbreakable in him, something pure that even the streets couldn't take away. On that stormy evening, as Eli searched for scraps near the alley behind the diner, he noticed a group of men outside a nearby bar. They were shouting, angry voices cutting through the rain. A large man in a leather jacket stood surrounded by 3 younger guys, mean-looking types, laughing, drunk, and itching for trouble. The older man was built like a tank, tattoos on his arms, the words, "Hell's Angels," stitched on his vest. He was trying to walk away, but the punks kept pushing him, mocking him, calling him names. The fight was about to start. Eli froze. He'd seen fights before on the streets and shelters, but something in him wouldn't let him just walk away. The old biker looked tired, hurt, cornered. One of the punks picked up a metal pipe, raised it high, ready to swing. Without thinking, Eli ran toward them. The sound of the pipe hitting flesh was sharp. But it wasn't the biker who took the blow. It was Eli. The small boy threw himself in between them, his arms up, his voice breaking as he yelled, "Stop! He didn't do anything!" The men turned on him, cursing, shoving him to the ground. The biker tried to pull them off, but there were too many. Eli curled into a ball as fists and boots rained down on him. When the police sirens finally wailed in the distance, the punks scattered like rats. The biker, bruised but still standing, knelt beside Eli. He lifted the boy gently, cradling his head as blood trickled from his nose. "Why'd you do that, kid?" he whispered, voice trembling. Eli barely managed to mumble, "Nobody deserves to be hurt like that." Then everything went black. When Eli woke up, he was in a hospital bed. The white walls and the steady beep of machines felt unreal. His body ached all over. But what shocked him most wasn't the pain. It was the sight of the biker sitting beside his bed, still in his leather vest, eyes red and tired. "You're awake," the man said softly. "Name's Ray. You saved my life out there." Over the next few days, Ray stayed. He learned Eli's story piece by piece. The streets, the hunger, the loneliness. The biker's heart, hardened by years of rough living and mistakes, began to melt. He saw something in that boy that reminded him of himself when he was young, before the world turned cruel. When Eli was discharged, Ray didn't let him go back to the streets. He brought him to his small home on the edge of town, a rundown garage filled with motorcycles, tools, and a quiet peace Eli hadn't known in years. Life with Ray was different. For the first time, Eli had a bed, warm meals, and someone who asked how his day was. He helped around the garage cleaning parts, learning to fix bikes. There was something almost fatherly in the way Ray would show him how to hold a wrench or change oil, gruff voice hiding the growing affection. But news travels fast in small towns. People started whispering about the homeless kid, the biker, and what had happened that night. One morning, a local reporter showed up at the garage asking about the brave street kid who saved a Hell's Angel. Ray didn't want attention, but Eli's story spread like wildfire. Within days, local news picked it up. Social media exploded with photos of the small boy beside the towering biker. The world suddenly cared about Eli, the boy who took a beating to protect a stranger. But not everyone in town liked it. Some said it was all for attention. Others sneered that a street kid doesn't deserve sympathy. Eli heard it all. He'd walk home from school. Yes, Ray had enrolled him back into classes and still feel those stares. He didn't understand why people hated what they didn't know. But Rye told him something that stuck. Let them talk, kid. What matters is who you choose to be when no one's watching. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. One evening, Ray got a call. He didn't say much, just nodded and told Eli to get ready. "We're going for a ride," he said. They drove out to a large open field just outside town. As they turned the corner, Eli's eyes widened. Hundreds, no, thousands of motorcycles lined the horizon. The rumble of engines echoed like thunder. Men and women in leather vests stood waiting. On every jacket, the same emblem, Hell's Angels. Ray squeezed the boy's shoulder. "Word got around," he said quietly, "about what you did for me." They all came. When Eli stepped out of the truck, a silence fell. Then one by one, bikers took off their helmets and nodded in respect. The leader stepped forward, his voice deep and heavy with emotion. "This kid," he said, pointing at Eli, "did something most grown men wouldn't. He put himself in harm's way for one of us. That kind of heart deserves to be honored." What happened next brought the entire town to its knees. One by one, every biker started their engine, revving in unison until the ground trembled. Then they formed a massive circle around Eli and Ray. The leader took off his vest, something sacred in their world, and placed it over Eli's shoulders. "From now on," he said, "your family." Tears streamed down Eli's face. For a boy who had no one, who had been invisible his whole life, to be accepted by an army of people who saw him, who valued his courage, it was too much to hold back. Even the crowd that had gathered to watch fell silent. Some wept openly. The sound of engines roared like a heartbeat of unity, echoing through the town and beyond. News crews arrived. The story spread nationwide. Donations poured in for Eli's education and for homeless shelters in his town. Schools organized food drives. Churches opened their doors to those on the streets. For the first time, people didn't just talk about kindness, they lived it. And it all started with a kid who refused to walk away from someone in pain. Months later, Eli stood in front of his new school wearing that leather vest proudly over his jacket. The emblem on the back wasn't a mark of rebellion anymore. It was a symbol of brotherhood, of second chances, of hope. Rye watched from a distance, arms crossed, a faint smile hidden behind his beard. He'd found something too, a reason to believe that even the roughest souls could still find redemption. Years passed. Eli grew taller, stronger. He studied hard, worked part-time at Ray's garage, and even started volunteering at shelters to help other homeless kids. When he turned 18, the local mayor invited him to speak at a community event. Standing on that stage looking at hundreds of faces, Eli's voice trembled as he said, "You don't need much to change a life, just the courage to care." That night, as he and Ray rode side by side down the highway, the wind in their faces and the stars overhead, Eli felt something he hadn't felt in years. Peace. He wasn't a lost kid anymore. He was part of a family, part of something bigger. The world could be cruel, yes, but it could also be beautiful if you looked close enough. If this story touched your heart, please take a second to like this video. Share it with someone who still believes in hope and subscribe to Silent Stories. Your support helps bring more true emotional stories like this to life and reminds people that kindness still exists. And before we end, comment below. What's one act of kindness you've seen that restored your faith in humanity? Your words might inspire someone today. As the engines of 1,000 bikes thundered through the night, people came out of their homes to watch. Old men removed their hats, mothers held their children close, and somewhere among that sea of headlights and leather, a once homeless boy smiled through tears because he finally belonged. Because he had proved that even the smallest act of courage can light up the darkest corners of the world. And in that small town, forever changed by a single boy's heart, the sound of roaring engines became the sound of hope itself.